Level 1. The candidate. You are 22. You didn't find this. It found you, or rather, you chased it down until it had nowhere left to run. The FBI's hostage rescue team is not a career path. It is a destination reached only after years of work that most people will never see. HRT operators are drawn exclusively from the ranks of experienced special agents. No one walks in off the street. You don't even get to apply until you've spent at least 2 years in a field office. But the dream starts now, in a 2-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio, where you've just accepted a position as a new special agent trainee. The acceptance letter came after 3 application cycles. The first, you were filtered out at the fitness panel. The second, you passed the fitness but stumbled through the structured interview too eager, not enough substance. The third time, you let the answers breathe before you gave them. You report to Quantico in 9 days. You sell your truck. You call your father, a retired Marine sergeant who says only, "Don't embarrass yourself." That is, from him, a form of love. The FBI Academy occupies 547 acres inside Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia. It is deliberate and austere in the way that all serious institutions are. Your new agent class has 48 people. A former Navy JAG officer named Carla Dunstan, who already seems to know which questions not to ask. A forensic engineer from Portland named Desmond Achebe, who carries a battered copy of the Federal Rules of Evidence in his cargo pocket. You are the youngest in the room. It shows, but only for the first week. 21 weeks. Firearms, constitutional law, behavioral science, case development, surveillance, physical fitness that never stops. You qualify on the FBI's 5-0 round course and score 82 on the first attempt. Not remarkable. Passable. You go back after hours and work on your draw until the range officer has to tell you the lights are going off. Week 17, a trainee named Philip Grantham, former Army Ranger, 2 combat deployments, is dismissed after 3 consecutive failures on written legal assessments. His chair is empty on Monday. The room absorbs it without ceremony. This place does not care what you were before you arrived. It cares what you do here. Week 21. Graduation. Your father is in the 4th row in a suit he had pressed the night before. He doesn't cry, but he stands when you take the oath, and he doesn't have to. You walk out of the ceremony a special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The HRT is still years away. You understand this. You begin anyway. Level 2. The field agent. You are 24. Your first posting is the Atlanta field office. Violent crime, public corruption, bank robbery, and the kind of organized theft that hides inside legitimate business. Beige walls. Fluorescent lighting. A coffee maker that has been broken for 4 months and which no one has reported because no one has time. Your supervisor is a 17-year veteran named Robert Calloway. Precise, spare with words, the kind of agent who makes you feel like you're behind even when you're keeping up. On your first morning, he slides a manila folder across the desk and says, "You will make your mistakes on paper first. That's better for everyone." You open the folder. It is a case brief full of red ink. Your first substantive assignment is support work on a wire fraud investigation. A logistics contractor named Harold Sims, who has been overbilling federal contracts for 6 years by inserting phantom subcontractors into supply chains. You build the billing timeline. 18 months of invoices, 9 shell entities, 1 spreadsheet that takes you 3 weeks to reconcile correctly. You are not in the courtroom when Sims pleads guilty to federal wire fraud and is sentenced to 46 months. You are in a parking garage in Buckhead running surveillance on a separate matter. A conviction is a single afternoon that the people who built the case often don't attend. A year in, a confidential informant surfaces a warehouse shift supervisor named Terrence Okafor, who has been watching stolen cargo move through a distribution hub near Macon for 8 months. He asks to meet someone who won't be recognized. Calloway sends you. The meetings happen in the parking lot of a barbecue restaurant off I-75. Okafor drinks sweet tea and speaks quietly and watches the street while he talks. 11 weeks. 8 arrests. A task force from 3 agencies runs the takedown. Your name is deep in the supporting documentation. Calloway slides an accommodation form across your desk afterward. He signed it himself. You kept him calm and you kept him accurate. That's the whole job when it comes to informants. You nod. You don't say much. You are already thinking about the HRT application window, which opens in 4 months. Level 3. The HRT operator candidate. You are 26. The FBI's hostage rescue team selection course, known formally as Operator Training Course Selection, and informally as something that cannot be adequately described in advance, begins on a Monday in March at an undisclosed training facility in Quantico. HRT was established in 1983 under the directorship of William Webster in response to the 1972 Munich Olympics massacre and a recognition that the United States lacked a dedicated federal tactical unit capable of responding to complex hostage and counterterrorism scenarios. From the beginning, the unit modeled itself on the intensity and standards of the military's elite special operations units. Selection reflects that. There are 31 candidates in your class. At the end of 2 weeks, there will be fewer. The first day begins at 0430, a land navigation course under a sky that is still dark, then a timed run, then water, then more running. The instructors don't raise their voices. They watch and they write things down. Being noted here is not a formality, it is a judgment. A candidate named Marcus Del Rey, former Delta Force, 2 overseas rotations taps out on day 4, not because he isn't capable. He tells you afterward, quietly, in the parking lot, that his knee had been wrong for 6 months and he knew it going in. Coming in broken, he says, is disrespectful to the process. He means it. You hear it. Day 11. An obstacle course in the rain. You complete it. You are wet and wrong and exactly where you need to be. Selection ends. You are one of 9 candidates who move forward into the operator training course, a months-long curriculum covering tactical medicine, hostage rescue protocols, advanced marksmanship, close quarters battle, breaching, explosive ordnance awareness, crisis negotiation interface, and a dozen other disciplines that will take years to fully internalize. An HRT instructor named Roy Venable, 14 years on the unit, watches you run a close quarters drill on a Thursday afternoon and says nothing until you've finished the debrief. Then, you're half a second slow on your entry confirmation. The half second is where people die. You run the drill 12 more times before dinner. OTC ends. You are assigned to the HRT. You are an operator. You are 26 years old, and you understand for the first time what it means to have earned something. Level 4. The HRT operator. You are 28. The FBI's hostage rescue team is headquartered at Quantico, Virginia. Approximately 90 operators organized into assault, sniper, and support elements. One of 2 full-time federal law enforcement tactical units in the United States, the other being the U.S. Marshals Service Special Operations Group. You are now part of it. The tempo is nothing like field office work. Training is constant. Physical standards must be maintained. Every skill atrophies if it isn't worked. You spend more hours on the range in your first month with HRT than you did in your last year in Atlanta. Your first call-out is a barricade situation in Western Pennsylvania. A man with a history of mental illness has barricaded himself in a rural property with 2 firearms and an unknown number of occupants. HRT deploys as a support element to the local field office. The situation resolves after 31 hours through negotiation. You maintain a perimeter position in a tree line for most of it. Cold, still, watching. Nothing dramatic. Exactly right. The call-out that stays with you comes in your 3rd year. A kidnapping case, a federal witness being held by a criminal organization in a commercial building in Memphis. The intelligence picture is incomplete. 48 hours of surveillance, 2 drone overflights, a negotiated approach that collapses at hour 50 when communications go dark. HRT executes a deliberate entry. The witness is recovered. 2 threats are neutralized. No operators are wounded. The debrief lasts 6 hours. You examine every second of your entry. You find one decision that was correct, but for reasons you couldn't have articulated clearly in the moment. You work on articulating it. An operator named Jerome Patton, 8 years on the unit, 3 overseas deployments with HRT's international program, tells you one evening after a training exercise, the longer you're here, the smaller the margin becomes. That's not pessimism, that's just what precision looks like from the inside. You are 28. You've been on 4 call-outs, 2 of which involved active situations, and 0 of which looked anything like a film. You are good at this. You are still learning what good means at the level this job requires. Like and subscribe for more amazing stories like this. Level 5. The Senior Operator, Team Leader. You are 34. You have been on the HRT for 6 years. You are now a team leader responsible for a 6-person element, responsible for their training currency, their equipment readiness, their decision-making under pressure, and the accuracy of every post-incident report that carries their actions and yours. Leadership in a unit like this is not what the word usually means in civilian organizations. You are not managing deliverables. You are responsible for the survival and judgment of people in environments where both can fail in fractions of seconds. The authority is real. The accountability is total. Your most capable operator, Simone Ibarra, has 8 years of field experience before HRT and 3 years on the unit. She doesn't need instruction. She needs obstacles removed and institutional friction kept from eroding her effectiveness. Learning to lead someone who doesn't need to be led takes time. You give it. A call-out in Year 7. A domestic terrorism threat a cell with confirmed explosive material and a federal target in Baltimore. Intelligence is solid, but the timeline is compressed. The assault plan requires a simultaneous entry on 2 separate structures, 400 meters apart, coordinated to the second. You develop the plan, the unit commander reviews it. It holds. Entry is clean. Material is recovered before detonation. No civilians injured. One operator, a newer team member named Aaron Fisk, makes a clearing error on a secondary room and doesn't identify a concealed stairwell until the structure is already secured. You address it in the debrief directly, without dramatics, and you run the drill 17 times in the following week until the error is structural memory. Fisk comes to you 2 weeks later and says only, "I understand now." You nod. You don't mention it again. The job of a team leader is not to make people feel a certain way about their mistakes. It is to make sure the mistakes don't repeat. You are 34. 11 call-outs. 2 use of force incidents, fully reviewed and cleared. A team that trusts you not because you asked them to, but because you haven't given them a reason not to. Level 6. The Supervisory Special Agent HRT Section. You are 39. You now supervise multiple teams within the HRT structure. You are no longer on the primary assault rotation. This is the first significant loss of this career. The thing you trained for, the operational work that defined the last decade, recedes. You manage the people who do it. The HRT operates under the direct authority of the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group, which is headquartered at Quantico and oversees the Bureau's crisis management, tactical, negotiation, and behavioral resources. As a supervisory agent, you are now part of the chain that CIRG runs through. A counterterrorism call-out in your second year at this level requires you to authorize deployment under a compressed timeline, less information than you want, more certainty required than the picture provides. You consult the available intelligence, you call 2 senior analysts, you authorize. The operation resolves without incident. The debrief reveals the intelligence was accurate. You know that the authorization had to be made before that was confirmed. You sit with that. One of your team leaders, a woman named Dana Creel, is 6 months from burnout. You can see it in the debrief cadence, thorough but compressed, correct but not curious. You give her a training rotation as a primary instructor for the next selection cycle. 3 months away from operational tempo. She returns recalibrated. She doesn't ask why you did it. You don't explain. A headquarters directive arrives, requiring an additional documentation layer on all call-out authorizations. It will slow the pre-deployment cycle by an estimated 4 hours in non-emergency scenarios. You write a formal objection based on operational impact. The directive stands. You implement it without comment in any channel that gets logged. You are 39. You are learning that the further you go in this institution, the more of the work is architecture, building the conditions in which other people can do the hard thing correctly. Level 7. The Unit Commander. You are 44. You command the hostage rescue team. That sentence, in full, is almost too large to hold. The HRT has existed since 1983. It has responded to Waco, the 1996 Atlanta Olympics security posture, the aftermath of September 11th, the Boston Marathon bombing, and operations in more jurisdictions than its history publicly records. You are responsible for its operational readiness, its standards, its culture, and every decision made under its authority. Roughly 90 operators, a support staff of analysts, logistics specialists, and technical experts, a training pipeline that must be maintained even as the operational tempo continues. Relationships with JSOC, with allied nation counterterrorism units, with the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service on international liaison matters. Your most consequential decision in year 1 of command comes during a multi-agency counterterrorism operation in which 3 federal entities disagree on the timing of tactical intervention. The FBI's intelligence picture supports a 4-8-hour delay for additional confirmation. A partner agency disagrees and applies pressure through joint command channels to accelerate. You hold the 4-8-hour position. You document the disagreement formally. The delay yields a 4th subject not identified in the original intelligence package. The operation is complete. The documentation stands in the record as evidence of the reasoning. An HRT veteran named Owen Tarbell, retired 2 years, calls you after the operation. You know what the difference is between a good unit commander and a great one? You wait. The good ones make the right call. The great ones make sure the record shows why it was right. You sit with that for longer than you expected to. You are 44. The unit depends on your judgment. So does the institution that the unit serves. Level 8. The Assistant Director Critical Incident Response Group. You are 49. You are now the Assistant Director overseeing CIRG, the Critical Incident Response Group, which includes not only HRT, but the Bureau's Crisis Negotiation Unit, Behavioral Analysis Units, and the National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime. You no longer command operators. You shape the architecture in which all of it operates: budget cycles, personnel policy, training standards, interagency agreements, congressional testimony. You testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee twice in your first year. You coordinate with the Department of Homeland Security, the National Security Council, and, on 2 occasions, the National Security Advisor directly. An investigation touching a domestic extremist organization generates congressional interest. Carefully worded letters, not orders, but pressure that everyone inside the building recognizes. The investigation is legally sound. The authority is clear. You do not alter the direction of the investigation. You hold a meeting with the director, ensure it is documented, and write a separate internal memo which you retain. 2 months later, the inquiry fades. 4 arrests result. The record is intact. You have not run a tactical entry in 11 years. There are operators on the HRT who came into the unit after you left it. You are the institution now, not the person inside it, but a structural part of the frame that holds it up. That is not a loss. It is a different form of the same obligation. Level 9. The Deputy Director. You are 53. The J. Edgar Hoover Building, Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. Brutalist architecture that was considered dated the decade it opened, housing the most consequential domestic law enforcement institution in the world. Your office is on the 5th floor. The view faces west. Deputy Director, career appointment. The person who runs the FBI day-to-day, the operations, the workforce, the investigative standards, the institutional culture, while the director manages the political relationship with the executive branch. 35,000 employees, a $10 billion annual budget. Every major domestic law enforcement and intelligence operation flows toward this desk. 14 months in, guidance arrives through the director's office from outside the bureau, suggesting that certain investigative priorities be restructured in ways that diverge from the current threat assessment. Not an order, not illegal, but pressure the kind that serious institutions feel and serious leaders recognize immediately. You meet with the director. You present the operational reasoning. You don't accuse. You let the professional argument carry its own weight. The guidance is reframed in a way that preserves investigative priorities while acknowledging the external interest. You leave the meeting knowing it will come again. Different pressure, different form. The job is to hold the line every time, not because it's easy, but because the line is what the institution is. You are 53, 31 years in. You know the operations that closed cleanly and the ones that didn't. The decisions made correctly in full information and the ones made correctly in fog. The thing you have always been protecting through every call-out, every management decision, every formal objection is not a building or a title. It is the idea that a government institution can exist inside a democracy and serve the law rather than the people who hold power over it. Some days, you are certain it is possible. Others, less so. But every day, you come back and do the work. Level 10. The conclusion. You are 58. You retire on a Wednesday, not because the institution asked you to, because 36 years is what you agreed to give and you have given it fully and correctly and it is done. The ceremony is at FBI headquarters. The director speaks. The CIRG leadership is in the room. Operators you trained 15 years ago are running their own elements now. Your son is in the second row. He is 31. He is a trauma surgeon in Denver, a choice that fills you with uncomplicated pride. They give you a shadow box, your service weapon decommissioned. A photograph of every posting arranged on a single frame. Atlanta, Quantico, Baltimore, Washington, Quantico again, the Hoover Building, different buildings, different scales. The same underlying requirement, always, see clearly, document truthfully, make the right call, and hold the line. On your last morning, you walk through the Hoover Building before anyone arrives. The basement records division, physical files in climate-controlled rows. The third-floor hallway, where CIRG's operational history runs along the wall in framed incident summaries. The fifth-floor office, where you spent the last 4 years of your career. You think about the 2-bedroom apartment in Columbus, where the acceptance letter arrived. The candidate who was filtered out twice before getting through. The parking lot in Macon, where Terrence Okafor drank sweet tea and watched the street while he talked. The tree line in Western Pennsylvania, in the cold. The debrief after Memphis. The documentation meeting with the director. The memo you wrote so there would always be a record. You think about the empty chairs candidates who didn't finish selection. Operators who made wrong decisions at critical moments. Leaders who became more invested in the rank than in the work the rank was supposed to do. You put on your coat, the bureau will go on. New candidates are at Quantico tonight, sleeping in the same plain rooms, running the same early miles, learning the same lesson. The system does not reward what you brought with you. Only what you do here, right now, without exception. You walk out of the Hoover Building onto Pennsylvania Avenue. Cold morning, clear sky. No one on the sidewalk knows who you are. You walk toward the metro. 36 years in your chest. A clear conscience. That, in the end, is the only rank that cannot be taken from you.